What's up? What's up, guys? Back at work doing fire extinguishers. And I was coming across this passage in a video about the fig tree that Jesus curses, right? So he goes over to this fig tree, and it got no fruit on it, and he gets mad, and he curses it. Like he was just hangry or something. And it's just weird. It's just a weird passage. And you're like, why did you get so angry at that plant? All right? But then you got to keep reading, because this is the piece of bread of a sandwich that the writer of the gospel is talking about, right? So right after that, he curses this fig tree. You're like, that's weird. Then he goes to the temple, and this is where he forms a whip, and he basically runs out the money changers and whoever else that have set up shop, right, in a portion of the temple. So this is the meat of the sandwich. All this is tied together. It's fascinating. So where they set up shop was where anyone who was not an Israelite could come and worship God. And they pretty much took up that whole space and prevented them from doing so. Okay? And so then it goes back to the fig tree, and the disciples realize, like, that fig tree is done. It's decayed down to the roots. Okay? So there's a little bit of context for that area that they would have known when they had read that and heard that story, that it made sense. To us, we're just like, that just seems kind of weird. Why'd you kill that fig tree? So the fig trees in Israel will produce a fruit before leaves ever show up, like little fig nuggets that you can eat. And so if it's got leaves, it's basically advertising that, hey, there's fruit here. And so when he walks up and there's none, he curses it. It was a false advertisement, right? It was not genuinely producing any fruit. And so same thing in the temple. Like, it looked like the temple. People were doing temple stuff. They were worshiping, right? But there was no real fruit, okay? Not the fruit he was looking for anyways. And so he cast them out, all right? So you look at this and you realize that all this is tied together in some, like, spiritual sandwich, okay? He's talking about, like, things that appear to be producing fruit, like a fig tree, like people who are at the temple of God. But when you get a closer look, right, you realize there's no good fruit at all, period. And so when you tie it all together, you start realizing, with the context and their fig trees and the passage of scripture that's all being tied together, you're like, oh, okay, he is trying to teach them, the disciples, a message, right? That the outward appearance, right, doesn't mean anything if there's no real fruit, right? You can show your leaves, right? You can go to the temple and do temple stuff, but if you're not actually producing fruit, right, it means nothing, right? And it leads to death. Isn't that neat? All right, that's it.